Relax, it's not like she's going to Harvard. My fiancé laughed into the microphone, pointing at my 14-year-old daughter. The guests chuckled nervously. My daughter froze beside the 3-tiered cake, her hand still holding a paper plate. I grabbed the mic from his hand and whispered, "What did you just say about my child?" He smirked at me like I was overreacting to nothing. "I'm just being honest," he said with that condescending tone I was starting to hate. And that's when my phone started ringing in my purse. The screen lit up with a name I didn't expect. Principal Rodriguez. "My name is Danielle Harper, and I'm 36 years old. I work as a public library assistant in a small Ohio town where everybody knows everybody's business. I've been raising my daughter Lily on my own since her dad walked out when she was 6 years old. He said he needed to find himself. Turns out he found himself a new family 2 states over. I'm not rich. I don't wear designer clothes from boutiques. I don't have a big house with a 2-car garage. But I raised a kind, brilliant, hardworking girl who volunteers at the animal shelter every weekend. That's what I'm proud of. That's my real accomplishment in life. I met my fiancé 2 years ago at a community fundraiser. He was charming in that smooth way that makes you feel noticed. He was stable, good with money, drove a nice car. I thought he'd be good for us. He always said he supported Lily in her dreams, but sometimes he'd make these jokes about her being too quiet at family dinners or too serious about her schoolwork. I ignored the red flags because I wanted security for once. I wanted a full family again, the kind with 2 parents at the dinner table. I wasn't glamorous, I wasn't powerful or connected, but I had something he didn't expect. I knew my daughter's worth, and I wasn't afraid to protect it when it mattered most. If you've ever been a single parent trying to build a stable life for your child, you know how hard that really is. Subscribe if you've ever chosen your child over comfort or convenience. Tell me in the comments if you've ever ignored red flags for love or security. Click hype and let's go into the story together. The engagement party was at a rented community hall with folding tables covered in white tablecloths that had seen better days. Family members, co-workers from the library, neighbors from our street, everyone we knew was packed into that room shoulder to shoulder. The smell of catered Italian food mixed with cheap champagne filled the air, along with the sound of forced laughter and small talk. String lights hung from the ceiling, casting everything in a soft golden glow that felt dishonest now. My fiancé stood up to give a toast, tapping his champagne glass with a fork until the room fell silent. It started sweet enough and almost genuine. He thanked everyone for coming to celebrate with us and talked about our future together with words that sounded rehearsed. Then his tone shifted in a way that made my stomach drop and twist. "I'm excited to finally bring some structure and order into Danielle's little world," he said with a laugh that didn't sound warm or affectionate anymore. Guests laughed awkwardly, looking at each other with uncertain expressions, unsure if they should join in or stay quiet. He continued without noticing their discomfort or caring about it. "And maybe we can help Lily focus on realistic goals instead of chasing clouds and impossible dreams. Not everyone's meant for big dreams, right? Some people need to learn their limitations early." The room went completely quiet, except for someone's phone ringing in the distance. Lily had just submitted her application for an advanced STEM program at the state university last week. She'd worked on that application for months, staying up late perfecting her essays and project proposals, asking me to proofread every single paragraph. He was implying she wasn't smart enough, that she was not Ivy League material in front of everyone who mattered to us. Lily's face went pale, like someone had physically slapped her across the face. She whispered to me with tears forming, "Mom, can we please go home?" Her voice was so small and broken it shattered my heart. Before I could respond or comfort her, my phone rang loudly in my purse. I pulled it out with shaking hands and saw the school principal's name flashing on the screen at the worst possible moment. I stepped outside into the cold November parking lot, the door slamming behind me. Principal Rodriguez's voice was excited and warm over the line. She told me Lily had just won first place in a statewide science competition against students from schools 3 times our size, with better funding. They'd been trying to reach us earlier that day because they couldn't get through because we were setting up the party. She wanted to congratulate our family personally and tell us about the scholarship opportunities this opened up. I stood there in the parking lot, my breath visible in the cold air, holding that phone like it was evidence in a criminal trial. When I walked back inside with my heart racing, he was still at the microphone joking about keeping expectations realistic for kids like Lily who didn't have natural talent. I walked straight up to him and took the mic from his hands without asking permission or caring who was watching. After the party ended and everyone went home, he cornered me in our kitchen. He said I'd embarrassed him in front of his family by overreacting to a harmless joke. "It was a joke, Danielle. You're too sensitive about everything," he said while loosening his tie. "Maybe if you learned to take criticism, Lily would too." The next morning, he sat Lily down at the breakfast table and told her she shouldn't let compliments get to her head. "Winning one competition doesn't mean you're special," he said over his coffee. That's when I started paying real attention. I noticed how often he belittled her achievements, how he'd changed the subject whenever she talked about her dreams, how he'd sigh dramatically when she showed us her report cards. 2 weeks later, he suggested merging our finances before the wedding. He sat me down with spreadsheets and bank statements. "College savings need to be practical," he said, highlighting numbers with his pen. "Community college is perfectly fine for most kids. Why waste money on something unnecessary?" I looked through the papers he'd prepared and discovered something that made my blood run cold. He'd reduced the amount he'd originally promised to contribute to Lily's education fund by more than half. When I confronted him about the discrepancy, he didn't even try to hide it. "Why invest so much in someone who's average?" he said, like it was the most logical thing in the world. "She's not going to be a doctor or an engineer. Let's be realistic here." The final betrayal happened at a family dinner with his parents and siblings 3 weeks before our wedding date. We were sitting around their formal dining table with the good china and crystal glasses. He told his relatives that Lily was book smart but socially awkward in real-world situations. Everyone nodded nodded along like they understood. He laughed about how she'd need family connections to survive in the real world because she didn't have the personality for it. Good thing she'll have us after the wedding, he said. Lily was sitting right there at the end of the table. She heard every single word. I watched her face crumble before she excused herself. She locked herself in their bathroom for 20 minutes. That night, after we got home, she came to my bedroom door in her pajamas. Her eyes were red from crying. She asked me in this tiny voice, "Mom, does he even like me?" Something fundamental shifted in me at that moment. I stopped making excuses. I stopped defending him to myself. I stopped pretending this would somehow get better after we got married. What he didn't know was I'd started paying attention months before that dinner. I'd been watching and collecting evidence like a detective building a case. I kept screenshots of his text messages to his friends where he mocked Lily's ambitions and called her dreams unrealistic. I recorded conversations on my phone where he talked about shaping her into someone more manageable and less ambitious. I had a plan brewing they never saw coming, a plan I kept completely secret. I also discovered something much bigger while looking through shared email accounts. He'd exaggerated his financial stability to me from the very beginning. The emails showed unpaid debts to multiple creditors and misleading statements about investment accounts that barely existed. He wasn't just insulting my daughter behind her back. He was lying to me about his entire financial situation, about who he really was. I didn't confront him yet about any of it. I waited patiently. I wanted the truth exposed at the right time in the right place, where he couldn't talk his way out of it or make me feel crazy for noticing. I confided in Mrs. Alvarez, the head librarian at the public library where I'd worked for 8 years. She'd been my mentor since I first started, teaching me everything about the job and about life. She listened quietly in her office when I told her everything, and then she said something I'll never forget. "Danielle, men who belittle children don't magically change after marriage. They get worse because they think they've locked you in." Her words hit me like cold water. She encouraged me to speak with a family lawyer before finalizing any wedding contracts or joint accounts. Turns out she knew a reputable family attorney from her church who handled cases like this. The attorney reviewed all the emails and financial inconsistencies I'd collected over those months. He confirmed what I'd suspected. My fiancé had hidden liabilities worth thousands of dollars that he'd never disclosed to me. Meanwhile, my fiancé grew more arrogant as the wedding date approached. He started talking about moving Lily to a more disciplined private school after we got married. He assumed I'd go along with everything he planned because I'd been so agreeable before. He thought the engagement ring on my finger meant control over my decisions. What he didn't realize was I'd already canceled the venue deposit 3 days ago and gotten most of our money back. I invited him over to my house one evening when Lily wasn't home. I used my calmest voice and said, "We need to talk about something important." Lily was safely at her best friend's house for a sleepover. I'd made absolutely sure of that. I placed printed screenshots, email chains, and financial statements on the coffee table between us, like evidence at a trial. He laughed at first when he saw them spread out. "You went through my phone? That's a violation of privacy, Danielle." I replied without emotion, "No, I didn't go through your phone. You sent these messages from our shared tablet. You forgot to log out." I pressed play on an audio recording I'd saved on my phone. His voice filled my living room mocking Lily's competition win to his brother. "She thinks she's so smart now. Danielle's going to let this go to the kid's head." I watched his face change from confident to concerned. "You're twisting things to make me look bad," he snapped, standing up from the couch. I stayed seated and replied calmly, "No, I'm not twisting anything. I'm protecting my daughter from someone who pretends to care about her." I told him about the principal's call at the engagement party, about how Lily's achievement was real and earned and undeniable. "You tried to humiliate a 14-year-old in public to feel superior to a child." He accused me of sabotaging our relationship and poisoning Lily against him. I reached up and slid the engagement ring across the coffee table toward him. The diamond caught the light from the lamp. "You sabotaged this relationship the moment you chose your ego over basic kindness to a child." I revealed that I'd already consulted an attorney and wouldn't be merging our finances or our lives. He sat there on my couch and realized he had absolutely no leverage left. For once in 2 years, he had nothing clever to say back to me. The wedding was canceled officially the next day with a simple phone call to the venue coordinator. Some guests gossiped about it at the grocery store and the post office, whispering when I walked past. I didn't care what they said or thought about my decision. Lily received her award at a school assembly 2 weeks later in the gymnasium with the whole school watching from the bleachers. I sat in the front row with Mrs. Alvarez beside me, both of us dressed in our best clothes. Lily walked across that stage in her nicest dress and smiled when they handed her the trophy and certificate. Not a small, uncertain smile like she used to give, but a genuinely proud one that lit up her whole face. Afterward, I apologized to her for not seeing the red flags sooner, for letting things go as far as they did before taking action. She hugged me tight in the school parking lot and said, "You chose me, Mom. That's what matters most to me." And she was absolutely right. That was what truly mattered. My home feels lighter now without his presence filling it with tension. Quieter, actually safe for the first time in months. I'm still not rich or successful by conventional standards. I'm still not glamorous or powerful in any meaningful way, but I am a mother who will never trade her child's dignity for a ring or security or the illusion of a complete family. And that's more powerful than any engagement party could ever be. If someone ever embarrassed your child to make themselves feel bigger and more important, you understand that specific kind of pain. Have you ever had to choose between romantic love and protection protecting your family from harm. Share your story in the comments section below. I'm genuinely listening to every single one. Subscribe if you believe kids deserve parents who stand up for them without hesitation. Click hype to help this story reach others who desperately need to hear it right now. Did this story hit home for you? Let me know by liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Click hype to help this story find others who felt the same way. Your support makes a huge difference.